Hello, this is Brian Begley with nCloud9, your Dynamics 365 and Power Apps partner based in Omaha, Nebraska. We're here today as part of our regular monthly webinar series, and today is a very timely webinar. It's all about the October 2020 release that Microsoft in the end pushed out to all of our CRMs for the most part last week. So all of you that are using Dynamics 365 should have access to all of the features that we're talking about today. There are some features, however, that Microsoft has not released yet. And as we talk through those, I'll let you know what those are, and I'll even talk about when to expect those. But before we get started, let's just go through some housekeeping. This is a webinar. We'll be recording this webinar. So if you don't want to be part of a recorded webinar, of course, please feel free to log out at this time. Also, we'll be sending out a recording of this as well as a PDF of my notes that I'm using for this that will have links to more information about the updates that Microsoft has applied to your systems. So today, what we plan on talking through is mostly how the update has affected the general user experience of Dynamics 365, as well as specific changes that have occurred to the sales and customer service parts. In addition, there were updates that affected Dynamics 365 marketing, field service, and project service, as well as the ERP applications like Business Central, but we won't be putting our time into those today. If you do have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk. So let's talk a little bit about Dynamics 365. As you guys know, you're all using Dynamics 365 for sales or customer service. And over the last few years, Microsoft has been continually updating Dynamics 365. We're generally on 2 major updates every year. We're in the October 2020 cycle right now. The next cycle will be April 2021. Not everything that is released as part of the October release cycle is available on day one. Some of that will be coming out in November through March of this year. So let's talk about some of the just general overall improvements that we've seen. We're here in our customer service hub in our demo environment. The first thing you probably noticed is you got a notification that tells you if you need to switch your applications, you need to now, instead of having a drop down here that tells you all the hubs that you have access to, the first thing you do is you click on the name of the hub you're in, and it will bring up this switching app so that you can, from here, choose to go into a different area. So from this customer service hub, I can choose to go into my sales hub or into my field service hub. So here I'm going to switch into sales hub. And pretty simple, pretty basic, nothing too exciting about that. Just a further refinement of how Microsoft has made using this application a little bit easier. Next thing I want to talk about is the timeline. And there's been a number of changes in the timeline in CRM. And to show you some of those, I'm going to open up my contact record in our demo system. So in our timeline here, timeline is where you store most of your interactions with the client. So from here, I can, as always, I can create new appointments, emails, phone calls, tasks. I can also do some advanced filtering of the record. So if I, for example, want to find a record in my timeline, I can click on this search button. And I'm going to search for a particular term in my emails, and the term is going to be review. And so one of the new features is if I type in a search term, and I'm going to hit enter here, it's going to highlight. As you see, the word review is highlighted. So if I had 5 or 6 different emails that had the word review in it under this record, it's going to show me a highlight where those records are and show me where the word that I'm searching for is. So, another small refinement to make things a little bit easier. Other options we have is we can choose to show email in conversation mode or as individual messages. So conversation mode allows you to see all the emails that come from a particular subject line together. So they all get nested together so that you can see all the replies back and forth. You can also change this to show emails as individual messages. That means that every email that shows up in your system shows up as individual messages as opposed to a nested experience. There's a couple of other things that you could do within here. You can choose to expand all records. So for example, I'm looking at these emails. I may not be seeing the entire text of these emails that have been sent to me. I can click on this icon here that says expand all records. And when I do that, it opens up the emails and the tasks to show me the entire content of those messages. I can quickly glance through those, but then I can just decide to collapse the records so they show back in the collapsed state that we have. We also have a suggested activities pane now, and I could turn that on by clicking on this lightning icon, and it shows me activity suggestions that I might want to work on based on artificial intelligence and your previous interactions with the client. So it's telling me that I've received an email from my client, and I might want to take a look at this email and review it inside Dynamics. There's been some changes with how Dynamics shows emails. So if I click on an email here and I want to look at this email a little further, in the past, if I would click on this open record icon, it would open up the entire email and take over my screen. Instead today, if I click on that open email icon, it opens the email in a smaller window. So I can see information about that email. I can see it in a window here. And from here, I can do things like to decide to reply to the email, forward the email to someone else. I can, if I turn on email engagement, which I'll show you in a few seconds, I can also see if we send an email, I can track, has my client opened this email? Have they replied to it? Have they clicked on any links in that email? So let's talk about email in the timeline here. I'm going to create a brand new email. We're going to start with our timeline. If I click on the plus button, I choose to create an email. It's going to open it up in this compose window. It shows me that by default, my email is not being followed and there's no reminder set. So we're going to update those records, those settings in a few seconds here. But I'm going to start. I'm sending an email from myself to myself. And so I'm going to say this is an email with some support info. Okay, so what I could do right now is I'm typing my email, and I can use my email editor to write really nicely written emails. I can insert hyperlinks into them. I can add lists and modify my fonts. Other things I could do with my email now is I can easily start attaching files and inserting knowledge base articles. Previously, if I wanted to insert a knowledge base article into an email, I had to do it from a case. So I would need to create a case for an email for a customer if I wanted to send them a knowledge base article. Today, what I can do is I can click on insert knowledge article, and then I could start typing in a few search terms, and I'm going to guess that I have a search term for product here. There we go. And I can see I have 6 knowledge base articles discussing products. And here's one about damaged or defective products. So I could review that email. And then from there, I can insert that knowledge article into the email by clicking on that icon. And it drops the entire content of that article into the email. I can make changes to it. I can add additional text onto it and do all the usual stuff. I can also from here insert a signature if I've created a signature for myself. Otherwise, it will go out without a signature. Another nice change in the email in 2020 is attaching files. In the past, if I clicked on the attach file button, it would open up a middle pop-up that I would have to click on again in order to get to my attachments. And I would have to do that. I would have to click attachments if I was wanting to send 3 or 4 emails to a customer, or 3 or 4 attachments to that customer in the email. I'd have to open up the attachment window 3 different times. Now from that button, I can click attachments and I can add 3 attachments into this email all in one step. Once again, it brings it back to how people are used to using Outlook to send their emails, and it's very simple. This is making the sending emails out of Dynamics much more simpler. From here, I can see my email items that are attached. I can remove them from the attachments, and I can also just change how I'm seeing them. So I can see that this is an Excel spreadsheet and a couple of text files here. Now, before I send this email out, I might want to track whether my client has opened this email or not. And this function has been around for a little while in Dynamics, but I just always like to show it to people because a lot of times they forget it's there. If I change this to say recipient activity will not be followed, if I say follow it, it's going to put in basically a tracking pixel into that email that will be able to track whether the client has opened that email. It'll also track how many times they've opened it, if they forwarded it to someone else, if they've clicked on the links in the email. So it's really good information if we're sending invoices to clients or if we're sending documents that are important to be able to track whether the client has actually opened them. So by setting this to recipient activity will be followed, it helps to be able to know when our clients have opened the emails. We could also use this schedule email to be sent at a later time to say, hey, I don't want to send this right now. It's 10 o'clock at night. I want to send it tomorrow morning when he's at his desk. So I could say, send that instead at 3:30. And finally, I like this one, which is set a reminder to follow up on this email. If we choose to do that, we can say, set a reminder that based on several conditions, remind me if I don't receive an email, if I don't receive a reply, if the email hasn't been opened, or just remind me anyways. And I could say, set a reminder for basically 24 hours from now as the default, but I could say set it for, Tuesday. And then I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to get a reminder notification when I get into CRM on about Tuesday at 1:13 p.m. So I'm going to now click send, and this email is going to go out to Brian with all the bells and whistles attached. And you'll see here within our email, in our timeline, we can see all of the information about that email. When I'm ready later on, if I want to look and see if there's been email engagement, I would click on the email. I would go to the email tab. And after the email's been sent, it looks like this email has not been sent yet. But once the email has been sent, I can then open it up. And if I've turned on email engagement, looks like this one doesn't. Let's find a good one that has an email engagement. I think this one does. Here it is, this one here. So if I open this email and I click on my email engagement tab, it can show me that this email has been opened twice. I've received a reply to it, and I haven't viewed, the recipient hasn't viewed anything. I can also see down here in my timeline when the email was open, when there was a reply to this email. So really good information can help me know when my clients are looking at what I send to them. So that's really the improvements in the timeline. The next thing I want to show you is about duplicate detection. And duplicate detection, the changes that I'm about to show you have not been completely rolled out into CRM yet, but I'm going to show you what they're going at. This is the first time we've had updates to duplicate detection in many, many years. I almost think it's probably been about 5 or 6 years at least since we've seen any changes. So I'm going to create a new contact here. And I'm going to type in my email in here so I know it's going to trigger a duplicate detection warning. So I'm going to click save. And when I try to save that email, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, we found 2 contacts in CRM that match this email. Now, what I can choose to do from here, and we don't have this yet, but we will be able to, from here, to actually do the merging of these records. So I could say, oh, I want to merge this contact I'm creating with this Brian Begley, and I can only do this one at a time, but we'll be able to merge from this duplicate detection found view. Previously, we weren't able to do that. So that's a nice little change. I know that sometimes when you get a lot of duplicate detections, for the most part, what people do is they click ignore and save, and they save it anyway. Hopefully, if they see the records that are the duplicates, they're going to be less likely to create a brand new contact when a contact already exists for that record. Now, one more change that's going to be coming, and this is going to be coming next week, and this is a small change, but it's going to be available next week, is the search experience is going to change. Now, when you work with most other Microsoft applications, there's a search bar that sits right in the middle of the application. So I'm here in Teams. If I want to search for something in Teams, I just go into the search bar and it finds my information for me. With Dynamics, if I want to use global search, I have to click on this magnifying glass and it will bring up the search bar. Starting, I've been told on Monday, there's going to be an experience where search bar will be right here in the middle of the ribbon, and you can just start typing, and it'll go to a different search results page that'll be a little bit more self-explanatory than this relevant search. So that's going to be coming out next week, so just be aware that you should see that. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of general improvements to Dynamics 365 is Teams integration. I don't know if your organizations are using Teams, but this is a change that's come out since the last update in April. But Microsoft has made it much easier to integrate Dynamics 365 in Teams. So for example, I'm in Microsoft Teams here, and now we actually have a Teams app that I can click on in Teams where I can see all Dynamics 365 information. So I'm here in my Dynamics 365 Sales Hub. I can go to my contacts and I can find that Brian Begley record. And I can do everything that I can do in the Teams web app inside of the Teams app in Microsoft Teams. Another thing we could do with Dynamics 365 in Teams is we can link records from Dynamics 365 to Teams. So for example, I'm in my general team here, Dynamics 365 demo team. I have a link to the Adatum Corporation account record in Dynamics 365. And so I have that available in the general channel of this team. These are very easy to set up now. So for example, if I'm in CRM and I want to go to Tailspin Toys, and I want to set up a team or tie it to an existing team in Microsoft Teams, I select the record, I click on the, I have to open up the record here. So let's open up Tailspin Toys. Once I'm in Tailspin Toys, I have a collaborate button in my ribbon. If I click on collaborate, it brings me the collaboration wizard, get started. What it will do is it'll say, what do you want to do? Do you want to tie this Tailspin Toys to an existing account or team or channel, or do you want to create a brand new team? Well, I'm going to say we're going to tie this to the Wide World Importers team. No, we're just going to create a new team. I'm going to have to do this very quickly. We're going to call this Tailspin Toys. I'm going to click next. I can create channels. At this point, I can create all sorts of new channels. So I can say project channel, and I can click next. I can create multiple channels at the same time. I can add members to this. So I can say Brian Begley is the only member of this channel. And when I do that, it's going to go in the background. It's going to create that Tailspin Toys team and channel in Microsoft Teams. It's going to add all the members that I added to it, and it's going to link the two records together. So meanwhile, while that's doing this, I'm just going to search in Teams for Tailspin and see if it's been created. It usually takes a few minutes for the record to be created. We can come back to that later on. So while that's happening, we're going to keep moving on. Cancel. Okay, let's try again. Let's search again. Yeah, it should be coming up pretty soon here. Anyway, so it's in the background creating the Tailspin Toys. And once we've done that, what will happen is we'll have this Files tab here. And so now any files that we save to this tab in Dynamics 365 will also be saved in the Tailspin Toys file area of that Microsoft team. So really powerful. We'll probably have another webinar to discuss that coming up in the next couple months or so about Microsoft Teams and Dynamics integration. We're going to talk about a couple changes now, move on to the sales area. In sales forecasting, we're going to talk about a couple of the areas that have been added. About 3 or 4 months ago, we had a webinar on the forecasting tools that have been added to Dynamics 365. In the one major change that we've seen is that now they've added the ability to create a forecast based on products. So previously, you've only been able to build forecasts based on sales teams and sales members. Now you can add forecasts for products. So if you're using Dynamics 365 to create quotes and using the product catalog in Dynamics 365, this could be a good way of showing the products that you need to be building in your inventory based on forecasted future sales. So we'll probably update our webinar on that when that comes up. Another change that's coming to the sales area is a dedicated mobile sales app. So if your sales team is using Dynamics 365 mobile, we're coming out with a new mobile sales app. It's going to be available starting in November, and so you can get that from your app store. Finally, the next thing I want to show you in Dynamics 365 sales improvements is a change that's been affected. We're going to open up a opportunity here. We're going to open up this opportunity. Now, one thing I like is, if you notice, when I opened up this opportunity, first off, we have these Kanban boards that were introduced in last year, which allow me to easily move opportunities and leads from one sales stage to another. But also, when we click on these opportunities, they open up in a pop-up window. So I can make my changes to the record and mark something as complete, and then click Save and Close, and I'm back at the record that I was back. I'm back at the opportunity view here. But one thing that I do like, and I'm going to just change my view here so I can get into it easier. Okay, bear with me while I find a good opportunity. I think this is one. Okay, so we have this opportunity here. Let's say we've added products to this opportunity. So it shows on this one we haven't. I'm going to find an opportunity with some products. I'm going to try this one here. Product line items. Okay, we're just going to go straight to a quote, make things easier. So I have a quote here. Now, starting with the last version of Dynamics 365, I could create a quote if I've added products to this one. So I have 3 products on this opportunity. If I wanted to, I could easily create a quote and email that in about 2 or 3 steps. There were a button up here. One button said create PDF, the other button said email PDF. Microsoft has consolidated those buttons down into a single button. And what I like about it is when I click on this button now, it's going to show me what my template's going to look like that I'm sending to the customer. So for example, it previews the template. So we have 2 templates in our quote. One is called print quote for customer. It shows me what it looks like. So I can say, does this look right to me before I email this off to the customer? I can also switch to another quote template. This is the quote summary. So this might be the report I want to send to the customer. I might not want to do the print quote template. So let's say this is the right quote. Now I have 3 different options. From here, I can download this. I can send an email to the customer, or I can save it to Dynamics under my timeline as a note. So I can download this. Downloading it sends it to my desktop, and I can just open it. It'll open it in another tab, and I can save it somewhere else, or download it to, send it out as an email. But I could also click on email, and when I do that, it's going to open up an email for you, and you with that attachment already in there. So we see the quote summary attached to the email. And then from there, I can choose to insert a email template that might already exist. So we're going to insert a template, and it's going to drop that in there. Okay. So a lot easier experience. I really like this ability to preview the PDFs. So here's the biggest change though. Back in the April 2020 release, this export to PDF capability was only available in opportunities and quotes. I think we're the only two entities that were able to do this. Now, 2020 April release, we can create PDFs and export them and email them from any record in CRM. So if you have a custom project management tool that you've built in Dynamics and you have some reports that you want to be able to send to a customer, you can now use this export to PDF capability to quickly send those out. So we have some records ourselves that we'll start using to do that. So I'm excited about that feature. That's probably one of the biggest features for us as a sales team that Microsoft has added. So that's the updates to the sales side of Dynamics that I wanted to focus on. There's some new updates coming soon on adding products to quotes and orders, but I don't have any screenshots or any information on what they look like. So I want to go now to the biggest change on the customer service side of things. So customer service has been enhanced. So I'm going to go to Customer Service Hub first. Customer Service Hub is the good old-fashioned Dynamics 365 Service Hub. Not much has changed around, how cases work, but what we've added is the ability to get further insights of your data. Microsoft has integrated Power BI dashboards with Dynamics 365. So now, for example, I can go into my insights area and I can see all sorts of very detailed information about who is submitting cases to me, where are they coming from? How quickly are we resolving cases in my CRM? So right now I'm saying, show me all my cases in the entire time frame. It looks like it's only showing me zero data, but it would show me all the information about those cases. I can look at what are the popular topics. So based on the topic subject tree, I can see which cases are having which topic. I can also use Customer Voice, which is Microsoft's survey tool, to follow up our cases with surveys, which can result in a customer satisfaction score for how well your customer support team is supporting your clients. And based on those results, you can see what is your customer satisfaction score. And finally, resolution. So you can see information about who are your best sales support team, which are your agents who are resolving cases as quickly as possible. How long is it taking you to resolve a case? So a lot of detailed information. These are out of the box business Power BI dashboards now being surfaced in Dynamics 365 for easy access to information about your customer support, how well you're doing, and how well your team is doing. I want to show you one more thing here, and that's a new customer service experience called the Customer Service Workspace. What this is designed for is for very busy support teams that might be working on multiple cases at a time. What you'll notice is we have a little bit of a different dashboard here. We have a left-hand navigation is empty, and we have a tabbed interface along the top. So what does that do for me? Well, what that does for me is I can start opening cases in multiple windows and having multiple cases open at a time. So if I open up this case here, it's going to open up this case in my user interface. But I could also create a brand new case. So let's create a brand new case while I'm in this case. If I click on and hold my shift key while I'm creating it, it's going to create a brand new session. So I'm going to say second case. And I'm going to say, which is the customer that this second case is. We're going to say it's AdventureWorks. We're going to give it a topic and that it's a query. Product info is the description. And I'm going to say, add this to product. Go. Now I'm going to save this case. And what we're going to have is we're going to now have a search bar. This is called a Smart Assist. Smart Assist opens up on your left-hand side, and what it's going to do is based on the cases, it's going to automatically search for knowledge base articles that you might have for this particular case type based on artificial intelligence. It also has two new things. One is called macros, which are not showing here, and I'm sorry to show you that. Macros allow you to do automated support workflows. So let's say you receive a number of cases regarding password resets. You could create a macro that says when we get a support case that is a password reset, these are the 5 steps that we take. We send in, we go into our portal, we recreate or reset the person's password, we send an email, and we mark the case as closed. 3 separate steps. This script will lead the macro will automate that process. The second part is agent scripts. An agent script allows you to build a support script for common support needs. So once again, you could have an agent script that says when a password needs to be reset, this is what you say to the customer. So when you're working with multiple cases, and you can have, as I'm going to show you, multiple cases open at the same time. So right now I have on my left-hand navigation, I have 1 case, I have 2 cases, and this is the 3rd case. This really allows your customer service team to easily and quickly switch from case to case when they're working in high volume support areas. They can also have multiple site maps open. So I can say, I want to have a tab up here that shows me all my cases, so I can quickly look at my cases. And I want to have a tab here that shows my support queue. So I can have very quickly be able to move from my open cases to my open queue items, and I can quickly switch from case to case and just have very fast availability to work in my customer service team, make it easier for my service team to do their job. So those are the enhancements I was looking to show you today. We've gone a little bit long on this call here. If there's any questions you might have, feel free to put them in the question box in GoToWebinar. It looks like we've had a few questions that have been
Brian, we did
asked.
have, excuse me, Brian, we did have one question from Victor Solar. When you were showing the enhancements to the email, he was wondering if you have to have Dynamics 365 marketing to do that.
No, not at all. Those are out of the box and features. I'm assuming you're talking about the email tracking. That is out of the box with Dynamics. You don't need Dynamics marketing or click dimensions to track whether your customers have opened the email and how they've interacted with it.
Yes, that is what he was talking about.
All right, great. Any other questions? All right, so if not, we're going to wrap this call up. Just to let you know, our next webinar is scheduled for November 13th. And as part of the webinar, it's going to be a little bit about using Microsoft Teams and Dynamics 365 to market a webinar, because we're going to be moving from GoToWebinar to Teams for our next webinar experience. So we haven't quite set everything up yet, and we don't have a page for you to sign up for this webinar, but you should be expecting to receive an email from us in the next few weeks. Like I said, our next webinar, we're going to be doing via Teams as opposed to GoToWebinar. So thank you everyone who's attended today. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us at the nCloud9 team. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.